Hi, this is Shira Rubinoff. I'm here with Ganesh Pai, CEO of Uptycs. Ganesh, it's such a pleasure to be with you here today.
Shira, thank you for the invitation, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So, Ganesh, there's a lot of movement within the cybersecurity world, the security world itself, and within organizations. And there's this term that comes up, it's called shift up. What does that mean for the industry itself?
It's more of a philosophy and an approach with the growing volume and velocity from various types of cloud deployments and how software is created today and where it's operationalized. Traditional approach with the point solution poses a challenge, something that we as a venture have been fortunate to be a part of. And what we've seen resonance with our customers is a slightly different paradigm where you apply what has been proven observability techniques. You look at telemetry from various attack surfaces that you need to monitor. And then you assess by looking at it from a window of what's happening over a function of time to draw conclusions. And to do so, you need a data lake and other attributes. So this entire philosophy of moving it up to one level and getting telemetry from various places and then drawing conclusions for security related functions is what we've had the good fortune of characterizing as shifting up to the next level.
So, the security landscape has shifted tremendously in regards to cloud. Lots of controversy, but also a lot of movement. A lot of organizations moving directly to the cloud, a lot of security risks out there, but also a lot of great security that comes with shifting to the cloud. How has the security landscape shifted in regards to the cloud itself?
Yeah, as applied to the cloud, due to a wide variety of reasons, you can say that digital transformation perhaps is the number one driver. And you can think of digital transformation from two perspectives. One is organizations which have software and technology differentiator. It is a CTO centric approach, which means that they generate software in-house, and the arc of productivity is from the laptop where they build some intellectual property and then they operationalize it in the cloud. And second, for non-tech companies, they might be using business drivers as a basis to say that if we were to move into the cloud, can that make a bottom line difference? And in these two digital transformation drivers, adoption to cloud is increasing quite significantly. And as technology gets operationalized out there, either because it was procured or built in house, there are three aspects that people need to cover in plain English. They need to understand what is it that they have so that they have visibility into the attack surface. Second, they need to understand what's their posture and hygiene look like. Once you know what you have, you want to make sure that your fault lines are reduced and you've got good hygiene. And then post that, once you have good hygiene and you've figured out your vulnerabilities, you want to make sure that you have the ability to detect and respond should things go wrong for a wide variety of reasons. The combination of doing all these three things with this digital transformation, which is called rapid adoption to cloud, is one of the big shifts that we're seeing. And this is in line with the way even the industry analysts are summarizing how CISOs and others should be ensuring the security is good through various platforms such as cloud native application protection platform. But hopefully this point of view accentuates what I just said, that the driver of digital transformation is causing this platform centric approach.
I think you highlighted obviously a lot of great points. A couple I just want to touch upon. One that you said that you quickly glossed over, I think, which is probably the most important thing, which is great that you highlighted it, is know what you have, know where your data sits, know who has access to it, know what you have. And I think a tremendous amount of organizations struggle with that just in itself. There's so much data out there. There's so much information. Who has access to it? Where does it sit? And level up on your cyber hygiene. Exactly as you said, have the right culture, the training, the visibility, the security, and put them all together in the three steps that you said. I think you couldn't have explained it better. So thank you for that. And, some organizations or some companies or talks around it, people are looking obviously to cut edges, to cut costs. And what would you say to somebody who says, you know what, let's just use the tools that we've already been using. I just don't want to level up at this point. I don't have the budget for it. What would you say to that?
Yeah, you bring up an excellent point, because despite what the trends are dictating, one does things a certain way. Reality is you're going to be constrained due to a combination of resources on hand and budget. And shifting up doesn't necessarily imply that you shift up whole scale. The tenet behind shifting up is that you absorb what you can. So, for example, if out of the three pillars that we just discussed, if you have the ability, just get the information to see what you have, and you can continue improving your hygiene and doing your detection response using your existing tooling. If you have the good luck of already getting information using a central repository about what you have, then perhaps you can use the same tooling as the platforms and other approaches to advocate. It doesn't mean that one size is going to fit all and you have to mandatory, but if you at least adopt the philosophy of doing these three things basics right, I believe that you are going to be in the right direction. That's the simplest way to think of it, because reality is your budgets and resources are going to dictate what happens.
Well, that's so important because a lot of organizations would say, you know what, we only have a specific budget. And of course, as you know, as a CEO of a company, there's budgets for everything. The CISO, the security team, they have budgets they have to stick to. And there's so much security out there that it's infinite what we could spend the money on. So by you explaining what organizations can do without really spending much or at all to really get to the next level of security is very helpful for the audience. So thank you for that. So what do you think security teams should be thinking about as both cloud and both developer and laptops? You know, there's a lot of different areas they have to think about, but what about those in specifics?
That's a great question. Again, due to the result of digital transformation, either it's the CIO-centric pull or the CTO-centric pull, the world is gravitating towards a laptop-centric approach for productivity, SaaS-centric approach for productivity apps, and cloud is where technology gets operationalized, where the crown jewels of an organization reside. Now, in tech-centric organization, it's a little bit more interesting, because if you say the cliche is software is eating the world, the question is, where is it typically produced and how is it operationalized? And if you look at some of the modern tech-centric companies, and we've had a good fortune of engaging with quite a few of those, you might realize that the day in the life of someone who works there, especially a developer, is that they assert their identity using some provider like Okta, and then they do a git pull and do some work on their laptop, and by the end of the day they probably package their technology using containers and use CI/CD pipelines and push it to the cloud, right? Now, this is where if you're an organization where your crown jewels are reliant on the way the software is produced and operationalized, you want that full spectrum visibility, because end goal of many of these organizations as to why they procure security tooling is to not only ensure they have good hygiene, but it also to reduce overall risk, which is why this visibility from the laptop to the cloud makes a big difference. Because if this is what's going to differentiate you, you need to ensure that you have visibility across that spectrum.
Certainly. And what would you say when it comes to larger enterprises versus MSPs? There's a lot of talk between, do we have to spend the same? Do we have to look at organization the same? Obviously, no one size fits all. But is there any differentiator between the two when talking about this type of security?
Yes, you bring up a great question. When it comes to managed service providers, whether they're managed detection and response, in the realm of large enterprises, they typically tend to have in-house organizations. Usually the way they're structured, at least based on our conversations with our customer and prospect base, is that they tend to have a SOC analyst team with multiple tiers. They have a detection and response engineering, and then they have CSERT organizations in the scenario something goes wrong. Now, in other smaller organizations who might have a similar sophisticated security stance, having dedicated teams for security operations like this that large enterprises do may not be feasible. And usually for those organizations, MSPs come into the front out here, and they provide such capabilities. Now, large organizations doesn't mean that they can't partner with the managed service providers. The big difference is they might use them for staff augmentation or as backup to their own staff, or in parallel in some cases, because you want to make sure that you have two sets of eyes versus one, right? So variety of reasons, large enterprise, I would say it's mostly complementary. In mid-range or smaller enterprises or SMBs, it probably becomes more mandatory given the level of sophistication of attacks out there that you might get outside help and expertise.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd love to get your take on a Gartner recently released CNAP market guide. And in short, how do you see this market evolving?
That's a terrific question. I think as a venture and as a technologist, I'm super excited that while it took a few years for it to get here, this guide is validation of the shift up philosophy that we've been advocating. But I see its evolution to going beyond where we are today. Again, going back to the two big drivers of digital transformation that I said, the part which CNAP today focuses on is very tech-centric from a philosophy of how is software created, what can be done on the shift left side of the house, all the way to the shift right, which is the operation side, which means it covers source code scanning, things which you can find at a source code level, the CI/CD areas, the control plane, and finally the workload plane. What it doesn't cover for is what additional risks are introduced due to laptops and developers being involved and various other third-party SaaS services like GitHub and Okta, and how do they play a critical part. Now, sometimes others might call it as SaaS security posture management, just like cloud as an infrastructure is the core and focus of CNAP. I think the natural evolution is going to be adding other elements which introduce risk, and how do you account for that as a broader part of the cloud play. That's how I foresee the evolution.
Oh, very interesting. You've certainly shared quite a bit with our audience in a very great perspective in a well-spoken, explanatory way. So thank you for that. And I'd like to ask you any last thoughts or any quick little cybersecurity idea or business tip that you want to leave our audience with. It's always interesting to hear from a CEO of a company that has great insight and perspective in this industry. So I'd love you to share something with our audience.
Yeah, one of the things which I can share probably is the topic du jour with the evolution of what is called as general purpose transformers and the whole notion of large language models. There is an evolution of how something can be trained to be potentially be a pilot or a co-pilot. Today, the evolution is towards co-pilot to provide contextual security. The thing that I would characterize is that large organizations or small, if everyone is very good and adept at collecting the visibility and telemetry that they have, whether it's technology providers like us who might be providing the insights, or in the future, you're going to have some kind of AI-assisted general purpose transformer, you actually will end up owning the data, right? So ensuring that you have a sound way to collect, capture, retain the data, and use humans as well as artificial intelligence to assist you in your security posture and assessment is probably going to be a key evolution as things move forward.
Ganesh, thank you so much for your insight and everything you shared with the audience. It was a pleasure speaking with you today, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. It was a pleasure chatting with you, Shira.
Thank you.